Hello, hello. It's Business Partner. B1 Plus. Unit 4. Business Strategy. Lesson 4.5. Writing. This is one of those lessons we see something really practical happening. Reporting reasons and results. We talked about problem-solving meetings in lesson 4.4, and here we have big problems, big issues for the companies to solve, to deal with, and they will have to have many problem-solving meetings. But here we have a different approach. Instead of having a meeting, we are reading and creating reports to show the problems that the company is facing. And this is really practical, really interesting, because based on these reports, the people in the company can have the meetings and find solutions. Well, in this company, look, learners can report reasons and results using suitable linking phrases. And linking phrases, by linking phrases, we have here how we connect the different situations. This is a cause of that. This results in that. And this is very nice. But imagine that we work for a big supermarket group. As you know, I lived in Lavras, Minas Gerais, and there was a chain called Hex Supermarkets. Here in Chapecó, there are some chains like Celeiro, and there's another one that's Forte Atacadista that has shops in many different cities and towns. Well, it's easy to see that supermarkets can have problems. What kind of problems a group might face and the reasons for having those problems. Can we think about this before we start reading and working? Think of some problems that a big chain of supermarkets might face. And then let's work a little on this topic. Let me make it a little smaller here. Yes. So decide each of the underlined words and phrases in the report introduces a reason or a result. Then compare in pairs. Well, we are not going to see the answers here, but we are going to read these and work together during the live lesson. But the idea is very nice. We have these underlined phrases, and they introduce a reason or a result. And they are very nice. This is a very nice thing to understand, because we can communicate very well if we master these things. Report on current problems. The supermarket group has faced several problems over the last year. This report aims to outline the main problem areas and reasons for them. Out-of-town stores. Last year, sales decreased significantly in these stores. This seems to be mainly because of changes in consumer habits, as people try to use their cars less often. As a result, customers do not want to travel long distances to shop, even if prices are much lower, and prefer to visit smaller, localized shops. Customer service. Last year, self-service checkouts were introduced, and staff numbers were cut in some stores. This has led to very negative customer feedback. We carried out a survey last month in order to find out what the problems were. Firstly, customers complain that now there are not as many staff members as before to help them. Secondly, the self-service checkouts often go wrong, so that customers have to wait longer and longer. Therefore, many customers give this as a reason for leaving out our stores. Competition. A new discount chain arrived in the market last year, offering a more limited range of products at very low prices. So, this has also had a big impact on sales. Well, we have these 6 situations here, 6 examples of phrases or words that introduce reasons or results. We have to work and decide what they're working with. But in the functional language exercise number 2, we have something extra to work with. We have this list here in the box. Complete the sentences in the table using the words and phrases in the box. As a result of, because, do, has led, has resulted in order to, resulting in, and so. Do you remember we had these words here, or some of them, and we have here the problems, and we have reasons for the problems, and we have the results. As they have the problems caused by this, they had these results. And the exercise, the idea of the exercise is to fill in the gaps with these expressions. Do you remember what do is? Well, we have these, we use these. It's basically because of, all right? Because, due to, all right? Because of, due to, basically they're the same. In order to, because, in order to, with the objective to do something. So, with this information, why don't you pause the video and try to answer, right? And after that, and I'm not going to give you the answers, but we are going to work on these ones, on this one here. Teachers' resources, extra activities. If it opens. Well, we have exactly the same, but we have to choose the correct options among 3 options. For example, we lost a lot of sales to the price increase. Because to the price increase, due to the price increase, or result to the price increase. Due to, it's usually because of or due to. Let's check, it's correct. So what we have to do is to complete the other ones. Like 2, the increase of our prices resulted in fewer sales. The increase of our prices led in fewer sales or caused in fewer sales. You see, basically, all these words could work, but not because of the preposition. There's only one example that's okay. We changed our supplier in order we could benefit from lower costs. Do we could benefit from lower costs, or so we could benefit from lower costs. You have to choose. Why don't you try and answer? Customer service was improved because of all the complaints, as a result of all the complaints. What are complaints? Reclamações. Things that people say that are negative about something. In order of all the complaints. Or here, 5. We stopped making the product because of falling sales. We stopped making the product due of falling sales or result of falling sales. Well, why don't you answer these other four? You can pause and answer. Oh, and we have four extra ones here. Sales have fallen significantly, resulting to lower profits, causing to lower profits, leading to lower profits. More staff were recruited because to deal with the extra sales. As a result, to deal with the extra sales, in order to deal with the extra sales. The company expanded because it needed to recruit more staff. So it needed to recruit more staff. As a result, it needed to recruit more staff. And here. And 9, finally, sales fell dramatically because the product was no longer popular. So the product was no longer popular, the product was no longer popular. Well, these are the 9 sentences. Can you complete them correctly? Let's check during the live lesson. And, well, on page 121, we have this grammar reference on comparison. Let's take a look at it. We can use a variety of structures to make comparisons. These include comparative adjectives, like short adjectives, or adjectives with one syllable and some two-syllable adjectives. Example given: clever, quiet, narrow. We simply add "ya." They prefer to visit bigger supermarkets. Do you like big supermarkets or do you prefer small supermarkets? I prefer the bigger ones. There are some common exceptions. For example, good. The comparative of good is better. It isn't gooder. And for bad, we have worse, not better. Right? These are exceptions. Some adjectives end in y. What do we do when it happens? For adjectives ending in y, drop the y and add IER. The company boss is wealthier than we thought. Long adjectives. For some adjectives with 2 syllables and for most adjectives with 3 syllables, use more or less. Local stores are offering a more limited range of products. Another way to compare things is by using not as something as. To say that two things are not the same, we use not as, big as, for example. The HR department is not as noisy as sales. This means that sales is noisier than the HR department, though the HR department may be noisy too. They are both noisy, but HR is noisier. So you use HR in the beginning and you say, the HR department is not as noisy as sales, right? The training session wasn't as interesting as I had expected. This means that I expected the training session to be more interesting than it was. I hoped it was like this, but it was like that. So it wasn't as interesting as I expected. I expected here, but it was here. Oh, that's terrible when it happens. Emphasizing comparisons. We can use such as, much, far, considerably, slightly, and a bit. before comparative adjective to make the comparison stronger. And this is interesting. Then we emphasize that comparison. We wouldn't go, even if prices were much lower. The launch was far more difficult than we expected. You see? We can also repeat the comparative adjective to indicate that something is changing over time. Like here, customers have to wait longer and longer. This means that the average time customers are waiting is becoming progressively longer. Very nice. And finally, we have comparing nouns. We can use words and expressions such as more, less, fewer, and not as much, not as many as to compare nouns. For example, there are not as many staff members as before to help them. The company wanted fewer out-of-town stores. This year, customers spent less money than last year. How did you like this on comparison? It's very nice to see things like this from time to time. And then, the final task of the lesson. What do we have to do? Well, we should brainstorm possible reasons for the following problems. Customers unhappy, staff unhappy, sales falling. What could lead customers to become unhappy? What could make staff unhappy? And what could contribute for sales to fall? Can you bring some ideas? Let's talk about that during the live lesson. But let me think about something here. Let me see. Customers can become unhappy, for example, if the staff is unhelpful. I remember a situation. I called a phone company, and the person who answered, who was trying to help me, wasn't trying to help me. I could notice that the person didn't want to help me. Terrible. And then staff could become unhappy, for example, if the payment is poor, is not as good as they want. And the sales could fall if the products, for example, are out of date. They are not new products. So you could probably bring more ideas on that. After that, we have the table on page 130, and this is what we are going to work on. Let's use the information to write a report extract of about 180 words outlining problems in a mobile phone company and giving details of the reasons and results. Well, I'm going to show you shortly, but we are going to work during the live lesson and maybe as a homework to write that report. But we have basically three problems here. Customer complaints, they are increasing. Why? There's a reason. Oh no, there are two reasons. They can't contact customer service by phone. Have you tried those 40 minutes call to try to solve a simple problem? It's infuriating, isn't it? Staff rude and unhelpful, like that guy who answered me. So because of these, what's the result? Customers cancel contracts. Yes, I don't use that operator anymore, by the way. Phone's not working. Imagine you want your phone to work. And what's the reason? The raw material supplier. Oh, so what do you have to do? You should replace the handset. And if the network service is poor, well, why does it happen? Because there isn't enough phone masts. There aren't enough phone masts. Maybe low investment rate. Maybe. So what could happen? Phones are useless in some areas. Has it happened to you? It happened to me in Lavras, and in some parts of the city I couldn't use that operator I had. But when I changed the operator in other parts of the town, my phone wouldn't work. Terrible, isn't it? But I haven't had this problem here in Chapecó. But well, this is what we are going to talk about and work on to create a report just like we had in the beginning of the lesson. But remember, here in the beginning of the lesson, we talked about supermarkets, and here we have to talk about a mobile phone operator. All right? Well, this is it. See you in the live lesson. Bye-bye.